Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I'm going to be showing you guys the exact 10-step process or framework to go from zero to making $10,000 per month selling life insurance over the phone from home or anywhere in the world that you want to. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. How do you know that you can actually make 10K a month doing this? Well, this is actually screenshots from our bank account from just last month. So as you guys can see, honestly, to be honest with you guys, I don't even know what you're not supposed to see and what you're able to see. So maybe somebody's going to steal our banking info. I really hope not. But this is screenshots of deposits from our bank account over the last month. And as you can see, granted, there are some Stripe deposits. Some of these are from the CRM, and then we get paid a little bit from YouTube. But majority of this, as you guys can see, these are deposits from life insurance sales. It's $18,000, nearly $19,000, and this is money that we're getting paid every single month from selling life insurance over the phone. So it is 100% possible. And in fact, we're kind of like just getting started with our agency. And so these numbers are only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So let's start with step number one of this 10-step process, which is getting licensed. Now, before you click off of this video, don't worry, I'm not going to spend too much time on this because I already put together an entire 16-minute video that shows you guys exactly how to get licensed. So if you're not licensed yet, go ahead and watch that video and come back to this one. So that's all we're going to talk about when it comes to getting licensed. The next step is picking an agency. So this is something that I think a lot of people kind of overlook because most of the time people actually just get recruited into this industry and they go with the first agency that recruits them, right? They go with the person that recruits them. But you actually want to think through a little bit of a different process when it comes to picking an agency. And especially when you're a newer agent, this is a little diagram I put together, and I'll kind of explain what this actually means. But you only have so much time in the day and you only have so much focus. So this is actually a diagram of human focus. If you guys could, picture that, right? So here we have an unfocused human. They're doing all these different things. They're chasing all these different objects. They're trying to figure out all of these different things. We have this other person, we can call this guy Bob and this guy Jimmy. So Bob's on the left, Jimmy's on the right. So Bob's chasing all these different things. He's trying to figure out, a million different whatevers. And Jimmy is just lasered in, focused on one thing. Well, if you, believe it or not, guys, if you total up the distance between all of these arrows, it actually equals this distance. But Bob is just doing all of these different things. He's just going in all these different directions, whereas Jimmy's just moving in one direction. So what the hell am I talking about, and how does this relate to picking an agency? Well, the guy on the right, I already forgot his name. I think it's Jimmy. Jimmy's going further because he's doing one thing, and Bob is staying in the same place because he's just throwing energy in all these different directions. And when you're a brand new agent, if you guys are wondering while I'm looking down at my desk, I have this whole guide, PDF guide of all these steps, and I took some notes on it. If you guys stick around to the end of this video, I'll give this to you. But basically, when you pick an agency, you want to pick an agency that's going to allow you to just focus on selling, because that's the thing that makes you money, is selling policies. So when I say that, I mean try and find a agency or an IMO or someone that's going to handle all of the leads for you. So you don't have to worry about buying leads. You don't have to learn about generating leads. You don't have to learn any of that stuff, right? I, by nature, am a marketer, and I started off in a free lead program. I didn't worry about leads. I just learned about selling insurance. But when these people, they go and they try and figure out, hey, what CRM am I going to use? What dialer am I going to use? What leads am I going to buy? Am I going to generate my own leads? You're throwing energy in all these different directions where there's already enough things to learn when it comes to selling insurance. So my point being, find an agency that does most of these things for you so you can just laser in and make more progress in one thing, right? Now, the other factor you want to take into account is what I call the X factor, right? So if you guys have seen Karate Kid, this is, I think, Mr. Miyagi. And basically, he trains, Karate Kid on how to do karate. Yeah. So basically, he's an example of a mentor. And whenever you're selling insurance, you need to basically like pick your agency based off of who you want to be mentored by and who you want to actually train you. Because um, whenever you get started, this is supposed to have text on it, but it doesn't. So I'll just kind of explain what it is. Whenever you get started, these are the two learning curves of insurance. So this one on the left, this is the insurance learning curve. This one on the right is the sales learning curve. And so basically, up here on top, and up top is the success. This is 10K a month. So let's say this one on the left is the insurance learning curve. The one on the right is the sales learning curve. Most people get into the industry and they don't know anything about selling insurance, so they start right here. Uh, some people have some sales experience, but most people are, usually like around right here, right? So basically, what happens is your mentor or your trainer's job is to move you and progress you a lot across this learning curve so you can get to success. And you have to go across both learning curves to have any chance of actually making money selling insurance. And so a lot of people, they just blindly join some agency. Their upline never even calls them, and their upline like oftentimes doesn't even actually sell insurance. They just recruit people. And so if you want to make money in this industry, you need to learn from somebody that can actually take you and progress you across these two learning curves. Otherwise, you're just going to freaking drown. So I say all that to say, pick your agency based on who you want to be mentored by. And that's all I have to say about that. Now, the next thing, this is something that I honestly haven't seen anybody talk about when it comes to selling insurance. And it's actually one of the most important things, not just in insurance, but just in business in general. And we're going to be talking about foundations, right? So, insurance is just a vehicle, right? So basically, there's all these different vehicles or opportunities or whatever, right? You could say um, selling cars is a vehicle. No pun intended, because you're selling vehicles. Selling solar is a vehicle. Becoming a doctor is a vehicle, right? Become a lawyer is a vehicle. Going to college is a vehicle. These things are all just vehicles. They're opportunities that take you to a goal or an end destination. And so insurance is just a vehicle. It's just a way of reaching your goal. It's just an opportunity. It's just a career path. And so a career path has to lead you somewhere. And so if you don't have a goal that you're working towards, or if you don't have somewhere that you're trying to go to, then you're just aimlessly doing nothing, right? And so you need to figure out why you're doing this before you actually do it or before you actually get into it. So the way that I recommend doing that is basically setting a goal for yourself, right? What lifestyle do you actually want to live? And is that lifestyle, is that driver important enough to you that you're going to push through the rejection and push through the hard times that come when you sell insurance? Like, you're going to have to work your ass off. This is not easy, right? When I said at the beginning of this video, you could make, 10 grand a month within 3 months. Yeah, it's doable, but like most of you watching this will just never do that because you can't get through this hard time. And the reason you can't do that is because you don't have something that, like, you don't have something you're looking forward to on the other end. You have no self-discipline. So set a goal, write that goal down, and then basically what you want to do is you want to have that goal available and in front of you every single day, right? So I'm going to skip over that and I'm actually going to come back to that. This is my vision board here. And I'll just kind of just show you guys like what the different things on here are. On the left, this is a photo of me and my business partner Julian smoking a cigar on a back porch on a sunset in the mountains of North Carolina, right? So basically, like, this is not an actual photo. This is made in Midjourney, which is like an AI software that allows you to create different photos. So I spent about 3 hours on a Sunday going through and creating all of these different images. I'll tell you guys what each of them means and like why this is so important. But basically, like, this actually kind of looks like me and this looks like Julian and we're smoking a cigar. And this is like a moment that I can picture in my mind of, hey, when we make it, sitting on the back porch, smoking that cigar, talking about the good times, and reminiscing about all of the bullshit that we went through to get there. That is like a, it's like a, when I think about that memory, I genuinely feel something right here. And so what I can do is like, gosh, I just got hit with a chargeback, or gosh, I'm dealing with some BS or whatever it is. I can look at this image and I'm like, this is why I'm doing it. Because I want this moment, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to bring this from this vision board into reality, and it's only a matter of time. Here is, I want to have 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I want to get the little golden plaque, and I want to get the letter and all that stuff. That one's pretty simple. This is a house in Sedona that I want to own. I want to own a house in Sedona, which is a really cool place in Arizona. I actually have it tattooed on my left arm, right? So that one's pretty simple. This right here, if you guys can tell, this is supposed to be me. This is my dog. And then this is, little Tim, who doesn't exist yet. But this is an image that, like, I remember that the reason that I'm working so hard is for my future family, right? It's for, little Tim to look up to his dad and be like, damn, you accomplished something, right? Like, I can do anything if you can do that, right? So I'm honestly, like, just thinking about this kind of makes me a little emotional. And that's the whole point of this, right? This other one, I'll skip it's a private jet. That'd be pretty cool. Don't have to fly commercial. This is a photo of me and my dad scuba diving. Again, none of these are actual real photos. These are all AI generated, but they actually kind of look like me, which is pretty cool. So this is a AI photo of me and my dad scuba diving. He's never been scuba diving, and I want to take him at some point and fly my whole family to, Thailand or Australia and take them on like a really, really cool trip. And this would be like a moment from that. And then this is me and Julian on a beach in Brazil. His wife is from Brazil, and we want to go down to Brazil and sit on a beach and enjoy time. And then this is acquisition.com, Alex Hormozzi's company. I think it'd be cool to partner with him or sell my insurance agency to him at some point. So those, not to get too personal, but those are basically like some of the things on my vision board. And the reason this is so important, and the reason I spent the last 3 minutes talking about this, is because this is my freaking screensaver on my computer, as you guys can see. So whenever some shit goes down or I'm dealing with a problem in business, like, I can just go and look at that, right? And it brings me back, and I realize why I'm doing this. And so if you don't have this goal, if you don't have the vision board, if you don't know what you're working towards, you're not going to get through any of the hard shit. And so I'm showing you this, and I'm talking about this and spending so much time on this because this is something that you guys actually need to do, is figure out what your goal is, for one. And then two, create a way where you see it every day. And whenever you're going through something hard, you can quickly be reminded of why you're doing what you're doing. So that's the goal part when it comes to foundations. The second thing is something nobody talks about, but this is another thing that's critically important. And this is what I call the power pyramid. This is something I got from one of my mentors, Sabri Subi. And so basically, this is like everything in your day, all of your output, which is the red triangle here up at the top, hinges upon all of these other different things, right? So at the bottom of the pyramid, meaning this is the most important, it's the foundation, is sleep, right? Most people discount their sleep. They don't realize how important it is, and they, totally disregard it and just treat it terribly. But your sleep, like, there's every single professional athlete, they credit most of their success to their ability to sleep and recover, right? And I was watching a video the other day, and there was like this, doctor scientist. Honestly, I don't know what the guy's name was, but he said that sleep is the closest thing like, if sleep wasn't natural, it would be a performance enhancing drug. That's how powerful sleep is. And so if the way that you sleep at night is going to dictate your performance during the day. And so most people don't even think about this or optimize their sleep. But one of the things that I've done that has allowed me to, sleep better is I'll turn my screen off, or I'll put my computer on like a different lighting, right? It'll dim the lighting at a certain time. So it's 7 every day. my screen will dim, right? I'm not going to go crazy in depth into the sleep and all that kind of stuff because this would be like a crazy long video. I track my sleep using an Oura ring. If you guys want to learn more about the sleep stuff, look up Sam Ovens Sleep on YouTube, and there's like a really, really solid video on it. The next thing I'm going to talk about is diet. I know a lot of people in sales uh, don't really take care of themselves, and I was included in this when I was selling insurance the first go round, right? When I was doing this face to face, I would literally, drive 3 hours away from my house, and I would just eat fast food all the time. It was like Chick-fil-A, and more Chick-fil-A. And Chick-fil-A is great, but it's not great for you. And so I started looking worse. I started feeling worse. I started having less energy. And all of those things actually affected my performance at work, right? So eating a healthy diet, eating, good whole foods, high protein, these are all things that are going to contribute to your success over the phones. Exercise. I prefer to start every single day with an exercise before I jump on the phones, before I, start working on systems for my business. Like getting your blood flowing is critically important, especially when you're in sales because you have to keep high energy. Your environment. So this is basically just like creating a work environment that is, conducive to you wanting to work there more. So your office, when you're selling life insurance from home, is like your holy place. It's like it's sacred ground. You go here every day, you put in output, and this is how you basically make your living and feed your family. So if your office is, granted, it looks like I'm in the freaking storage closet. I'm with my parents at my parents' house right now, so I don't have like a crazy office setup. But as soon as I move back out to Arizona, like next month, I am going to have a crazy office setup, and I'm going to, optimize my environment and optimize my office. I would recommend going ahead and doing that for any of you guys. Not like make your office somewhere that you want to go to every single day and you're excited to work there. The next thing is focus, right? So a lot of people, when they get into this business, they jump on the phones, they make, 15 dials, and then they check Facebook, and then they, go and scroll on TikTok, and then all of a sudden they go to the grocery store, and then by that time it's time to pick the kids up from school, and then they come back home and they make another, 50 dials and nobody answers, and then they go and watch Netflix, and then they repeat that for about 3 months. They don't make any money, and they're like, oh, life insurance is a scam. Well, you have to focus, right? You need to cut out all of these other things from your life. I recommend, honestly, keeping your phone in a different room while you're working. The only reason that you would keep your phone in the same room is if you get inbound calls to your phone or if you're on a Zoom call with your team. So turn all notifications off on your phone so that you don't get distracted by these things. Delete social media. Just cut all of the BS out of your life. All of the stuff that's not helping you reach your goal is things that you need to eliminate, right? And so focus, like the definition of focus is just not being distracted or not doing distraction. If you don't do distraction, then you have focus. It's that simple. So just cut everything out that's distracting you. So tools, this is and guys, like the way this pyramid works is it increases it, like the things on the bottom are most important, and as it goes up it's less important, but it's still, all of these things are important, otherwise they wouldn't even be on this pyramid. So tools, this is basically like your mouse, your headset for calling, your laptop, your Wi-Fi connection, all these different things. Like what people don't realize is that having a slow computer costs them more money than buying a nice new computer. Because if I'm making all of these dials every single day and these, little clicks and motions, if having a faster computer allows me to get an extra 50 dials out, if I compound that over a month, that's like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 extra sales that I'm able to get. Probably more, if we're being honest. And that pays for a computer by itself. So this is the power pyramid. Take notes on all of these different things and just really, like, to be honest, I'll probably make a whole video on the power pyramid at some point. Let me know if this is something you guys would want to see, because I have a lot of things to cover and I don't want this to be like a 3-hour long video. So I can't go crazy in depth on that, but these things are critically important. So basically, like, optimizing your environment, your sleep, your diet, exercising, focusing, and investing in good tools. So the other thing too is the mindset that you come into this with, right? And actually, before I jump into that, on my notes here, actually, I'll touch on that in a second. So the mindset that you guys need to attack this with, what most people will tell you because they're trying to sell you on getting into this industry is that this is what it's going to look like to get to six figures, right? This is you. It's a straight, easy line, and all of a sudden you're making six figures next thing you know. In reality, this is what it actually looks like. A bunch of BS, bumpy roads, rocks, trees, rain, clouds, chargebacks. There's, spikes everywhere. Like, it's freaking treacherous as hell, right? It's not easy at all. And so don't let anybody tell you that it's easy. It's simple, but it's not easy. And so you need to approach this vehicle, this opportunity, with the mindset of like, hey, this is the hardest thing I'm going to do. Most people fail. I'm going to be the one that doesn't fail, right? And you need to be ready to face rejection, right? You need to have this iron mindset. Like, this needs to be your brain through thick and thin, through the up and down, right? Somebody is, telling you to screw off and that you should go, do whatever. And this is how you feel, right? Even when you're getting rejection, you're staying centered. You have a thick skin. This is just the reality of sales. Most of it is rejection. You go through rejection all day long until you find a few people that tell you yes, but those few yeses make you a absolute ton of money, right? And so if you approach it with this disciplined mindset of whatever bullshit I face during the day, I'm just going to power through it, you are going to have a higher chance of success. And if you don't, if somebody tells you to go jump off a cliff and you take it personally and carry that with you for the rest of the day, you're going to have a tough time making this work. And that's the harsh reality of selling insurance. There's a lot of money in it, but trust me, it is not for everybody, right? And so what I wanted to touch on as well, and I don't really have like a fancy slide that kind of explains this, but I'm going to talk about income producing activities really quick. And this kind of comes on to like focus. So basically, when you're a salesperson, you have income producing activities and you have non-income producing activities, right? So the best salespeople, they just fill their calendar with income producing activities and they eliminate non-income producing activities, like checking email, checking Slack, picking up groceries from the store, cooking, all these, dumb little tasks that you just like, that just suck up your day. Income producing activities is talking to people on the phone, making dials, setting appointments, writing policies. Fill your calendar with income producing activities and your income will go up. It's literally just that simple, right? So next we're going to talk about learning the script. Give me 1 second. I got to plug my laptop in here. All right. Now step number 4 is, again, learning a script. So I have a script actually in the description down below, and I have like a 2-hour long video that shows you guys how to use the script. We go super in depth into everything. That's not what this video is for, but I am going to give you guys kind of like some guidelines and things that you need to know when it comes to, a script, having a script, how that all works, and then also how to learn it, right? So basically, like, the reason that you need a script is because a script is structure, and you need to have structure on your sales calls. It's basically a sales system for you to follow. And if you don't have a system, that means you're just approaching every call blindly, and you're pretty much just following emotion, right? Emotion. So however you feel that day is the way you're going to take the call. But if you want consistent results, you need to have consistent outputs and consistent systems, which is what a script allows you to have. And so when you learn and understand a script, you can take every sale down the same line, right? And then if someone takes you off the script, you address what they say, and then you take them back onto the script. And that's why you don't just need to have a script, but know your script, because people will take you off script, and that's just the nature of sales. A lot of sales is off script, and your goal is to keep them on script and move them down the line, right? So whenever you are, get a script, which, use this one, it's great, it works. It's, helped us write 12K a week in production. It's pretty ridiculous, and it's what we use in our agency. uh, Study it, right? Practice it with friends and family, role play with other producers. Like, basically, I should be able to break into your house at 2 in the morning with a freezing cold ice bucket of ice water, come up to your bed while you're sleeping, pour the bucket of ice water on you, like wake you up just out of a dream, point a gun to your head and tell you to recite the script, and you should be able to get it word for word. Like, that is the level of memorization that you should have this script, because you're not going to run into a circumstance that's like that extreme, but you're going to have people just totally just slap you and shake you off your game. And you need to be able to come back to the script. You need to be able to come back to where you need to be and basically like stay on the path of the script without looking at it, right? You need to know, hey, they took me here, I'm going to come back here. So really learn that script, master it, understand the word tracks, understand why you're saying what you're saying. And you can do that by just reading it and role playing it, saying it out loud, listening to the recording, just master the script. Point being. The next thing is learning objections, right? So with objections, there's basically like 3 types of objections. You have circumstances, which is where people blame circumstances. You have others, which is where people blame other people. And then you have self, which is like, I need to think about it, where they take responsibility for the objection themselves, but they're saying that I'm going to have to think about it in order to make this decision. So again, this is not a video where I'm going to go over like every single objection. This is step-by-step how to get to 10K a month. So we have a video. It's like a 40-minute masterclass where I teach you guys how to literally overcome every single objection. So this is also going to be linked in the description down below. So check this out. But basically, I'm going to tell a similar story as I did with the script. Basically, like, the objections are just as important as the script, because objections are just part of sales. People are going to tell you they're not interested in the first 5 seconds of the call. And that's just the nature of the business, right? And those people buy all the time. So, I mean, I should literally be able to come up to you in public with a gang of people, push you on the ground into the dirt. Everybody in the group just starts kicking you and, like kicking dirt into your eyes, and like you're this guy right here. And then all of a sudden I like grab you by the shirt, lift you up, and I'm like, hey, I need to think about it. And you need to have the response to that objection memorized down pat. And I know this sounds ridiculous, but I'm using these over the top situations so that you guys can like visualize and picture how important and how down you need to have these overcomes and these scripts. And like, if you don't have the scripts and you don't have the objection ever comes down to this level, and you go out on the phones and you get crushed, you can't say that this business doesn't work, because you didn't work. You didn't try. You didn't memorize it. You didn't put in the effort. You didn't, act like a professional and learn what you needed to learn. So this is the level at which you need to know these things. And, the agents at my agency, they practice and they role play and they train to know these things on this level. This is what they're trained to do. So that's why people that work with us are able to see so much success. And that's why a lot of times, people that are just thrown to the wolves and said, hey, go learn a script and figure it out and then buy leads, those people don't see as much success. So learn objections. This is the level at which you need to learn them. Again, free resource in the description. Whole video shows you guys how to do it. The next thing is underwriting. So basically, your job as an insurance agent is to essentially match your clients with the best possible company for them, right? You're basically like Tinder for insurance. You go out, you say, hey, I'm going to find the right company, the right policy, all of that. And then you're just finding them the most bang for your buck, right? It's like Costco or Amazon or Expedia for insurance. That's your job. You're a broker. So you go out, you shop in the market, you need to know how to underwrite, and you need to know how to get people approved for policies. So the way that I recommend you doing this is use a tool like Insurance Toolkits. It's like $40 a month, and you just plug in all of the medicines they take, the health conditions they have, and then it's basically going to spit out which company you need to use, right? And then it'll show you the quotes, all of those different things. If you guys want like a full video on underwriting and how that works, drop it in the comments down below, and I can potentially make that for you guys. But like, this is something most people overlook because a lot of IMOs out there will just tell you like, hey, go write Americo on every single person. And so there's no underwriting. They just go out guns blazing and they just put people in not the best situation, and they wonder why they get all these chargebacks. And it's because you didn't sell them the right policy and you didn't get them the most bang for the buck. So use toolkits. That's really all you need to know when it comes to underwriting. The other kind of stuff will come with time. But use toolkits, underwrite, ask health questions. All of the health questions that we ask are actually in the script, so you guys will know what questions to ask there. This next part is something that most people overlook, and it causes a lot of pain and a lot of frustration for agents and clients. So this is actually, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that this is a client trying to fill out an e-application, and you're actually wrong. This is an actual photo of a licensed life insurance agent trying to figure out a Transamerica e-application. As you can see, the confusion on the face, the utter look of shock that it's been 45 minutes and they still can't figure out anything, and their clients on the phone frustrated as hell, ready to jump off and go watch The Price is Right, but they're stuck on the phone because this agent can't figure out how to sign a Transamerica application. And so the reason that you need to learn these e-applications and know how to do them before you try and sell a policy is so that you don't end up in this situation. So the way that you can do that is all carriers actually have training on their websites that will show you how to do the e-applications. So go through, watch those videos, do the practice e-apps, do the studying and the practice before you jump on the phones, and don't make this stop you from jumping on the phones, or don't over prepare, but prepare, right? Go out there, run through a few practice e-apps, make sure you understand how to do it, make sure that you know how to work these different carrier systems so that you don't end up in a sticky situation where you jump on the phones. That is step number 7. Now, step number 8. This is probably one of the most important things, and most people just completely botch this, which is setting activity hygiene standards. Most people set activity goals, but they don't set hygiene standards. Let me talk about hygiene standards, because this is basically like brushing your teeth, right? You don't go to bed. Let me rephrase that. Hopefully, you don't go to bed without brushing your teeth, right? Hopefully, you shower, right? I'm assuming that everyone watching this does those two things. You won't go to bed without doing that, right? You won't go a few days without showering because it's a hygiene standard, right? You are unwilling to break your hygiene standard. You are willing to not hit a goal because you do it all the time. Let's be real. But you won't break a hygiene standard. So you need to set activity hygiene standards for yourself. And these are basically things that you won't compromise on. So especially when you're a newer agent, you really need to front load your activity, right? And this means that when you're first getting started, this is when you're going to need to work the hardest because you have the most to learn. As you get better and as you improve, you won't have to make 500 dials a day. You can get away with 150 to 200, and you'll just end up getting in applications, and you'll be selling most of the day instead of dialing. But when you're just starting out, when you're just starting as an agent, you gotta front load the activity. You have to get as many reps under the bar as possible. And the way that I kind of like to think about this is like, let's say that you were practicing free throws for basketball. How are you going to get good at free throws? Well, you're going to take as many as possible, and then you're going to see how many you made and how many you missed, and then you're going to make an adjustment, and then you're going to try to shoot as many free throws as possible, and then you're going to be like, okay, well, I made a little bit more this time, but why did I miss all these other free throws? And then you're going to try to make as many free throws again as possible, and you're going to do that day after day after day after day after day after day after day until you can make 90% of your free throws. And then you don't have to shoot 1,000 free throws. You can shoot 500. And you're just doing that over and over and over. So that's why you need to front end your activities, because when you're first getting started, you're not as good as the people that can get away with making 250, 300 dials a day. Like, you need to make a minimum of 300 dials a day. And the agents that I've seen that have the most success, they aim for closer to 500, right? Especially when they're just getting started. And then anything less than that, it's just because they end up in applications. So focus on activity and focus on inputs, what you're putting in, the activity you're putting in, and use Kixie, right? So if you haven't heard of Kixie, this is like a dialer that locally wraps your area codes and will call multiple numbers at once. So it basically makes dialing way better and way easier. This is literally like 5x the answer rate at our agency. It's pretty expensive. It's like $200 a month. We pay for it for all of our agents, but if you can't afford that, I would figure out a way to afford it and then use it, because without Kixie, it's really, really tough to put in those high levels of activity. And then basically, like, every day, you should aim to beat the amount of dials you made yesterday. You should aim to beat the amount of dials you make per hour. Like, if it's 9 to 10 and I made 50 dials, from 10 to 11, I'm trying to make 100, right? I'm trying to outdo myself as far as activity. And the next thing we're going to talk about is actually the follow-up game, right? So you kind of need to be like this person, right? You kind of have to be a little psycho when it comes to follow-up. Most of your sales are not going to come from one call closes, despite what everybody will tell you. It's just not true. Most of your calls will come from you being this person and just following up like an absolute crazy ex-girlfriend. Most of your sales will come from this, because most people don't buy the first time that you talk to them. Most people, for whatever reason, they need you to call them back, or they get declined, or whatever happens. If you can master follow-up, you can basically create what we call the infinity pipeline, where you always have leads to follow up with and you never run out of people to talk to. We had an agent just 2 days ago put up like 3 applications in a day. 2 out of those 3 deals were from follow-up, and 1 was a one-call close. And most of her business ends up being follow-up, right? So master the art of follow-up, which is basically just like setting these appointments and setting these tasks for yourself in the future to call and call and call and call. And eventually you're just the water, carving out the Grand Canyon. And eventually these people are going to say yes to you, because you just keep calling them and keep calling them and keep following up. So mastering follow-up. And then the last piece of this is literally just time, right? When you incorporate all of these elements, it just takes time. So this is a pretty simple, diagram or graph that I'm going to kind of show you guys, like, what actually happens is you go and you do these inputs. So these are your dials. You go and make the calls. This is the actual process of making the calls. And then the output, you're going to, jump on calls. You're going to have these call recordings, right? This is critically important. You're going to have these call recordings. This is your output. Your sales, everything that happens is your output. What you're going to do is then listen to your call recordings. Nobody does this, but this is what has like allowed us to help train producers so quickly, is listen to your call recordings and take notes on them and say, hey, what could I have done better that I can take into my next call? And then guess what you do? You now use that with your input. So the next day you make all of these dials, you implement this one change that you noticed that you should have done from your last call, and then boom, output. Oh, little small improvement, but I still need to fix this, which you will then notice listening to your next call recording. And you just repeat this over and over and over again. And it doesn't actually take that long, because in about 2 weeks, all of a sudden you fixed all of the like glaring issues that you have with your sales process. And then, 2 weeks after that, now you're starting to get advanced, and you're like really good at overcoming objections, and you're really good at figuring out what people's why is, and figuring out like, how to read people and how to convince people of things. And then 2 weeks after that, now we're just, a month and a half in, you're starting to just be a freaking wizard on the phones. And you just repeat this process over and over and over. And within a year, if you're not making 10K a month, you're just not even trying. And realistically, if you do this and you listen to these call recordings and you put in this high output and you have a good mentor that can help give you that extra feedback, that is how you make 10K a month with just 3 months of selling life insurance. Is this process right here, and having a good mentor that can give you feedback coupled with everything else we just went over. That's how you make that 10 grand a month. This entire process, right? So, ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you guys got value from that. I will see you guys soon. Bye.